Hello, everyone. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Perfect. I see thumbs. Fantastic. Well, hello. Welcome to my makeshift studio. The pandemic has made it really weird for everyone. So I'm painting from home just like you. I have a studio in Uptown Marysville, but it's better for me to paint at home right now. So welcome to my home. Let's all paint together. So my name's Shauna Sue, and I own Crooked Door Studio in the Uptown, right in Marysville. I know a lot of you did supply pickup behind the studio. So that's my space. So when the pandemic settles down and y'all want to come see me, I would be happy to have you in there because happy paint people are my people. So as with every class I do, I like to run through supplies. And I'll do that and then give you a few minutes to make sure you have everything you need. If we were at the studio, I would have everything set out and ready for you. But since you're setting it up yourself, I want to run through it just to make sure we have everything. So first things first, just a minute. Okay, I'm seeing in the chat, some people can't hear. But some of you can hear me, right? Yeah? Okay. Yep, I think some people need to click join audio down in the bottom left corner. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, perfect. That's my biggest fear. If you've ever painted with me before, which I know some of you have, by doing these virtual classes, that I'm gonna be just talking away and nobody's going to be able to hear a word I say. One of my biggest fears. So let's run through supplies. First things first, the paint that you got in your kit is the paint that we use at the studio. It's Blick Student Acrylic Paint. It's fabulous because I can buy it by the bucket load. Good, Kelsey, thank you. I can buy it by the bucket load. It's relatively inexpensive. But because it's acrylic paint, acrylic when it dries, it essentially turns to plastic, so it doesn't wash out of clothes. If you get it on clothing and you notice it right away, you can try to rinse it out with some water, or later, if you notice it and it's dry, Murphy's oil soap. Murphy's oil soap is your friend for cleaning up dried paint on clothing. But this is your caution right now, to make sure that you have on a paint shirt. I see some of you painting outside, which is fantastic. If you aren't in a place where you have a paint shirt, run to the bathroom real quick, flip your shirt inside out. We'd much rather get paint on the inside than get it on the outside of a nice shirt. I have an apron on. So apron, paint shirt, making sure your surroundings are clear, that anything near you, if you get paint on it, you're not going to be too terribly upset. Because we know, again, for those of you that have painted in the studio, it's real easy to flick paint off the edge of your brush if you're not careful. Okay, so paint your apron. Next thing is your canvas. You get to decide during this painting. Here's our inspiration. You get to decide during this painting, are you going vertical? Are you going to flip it horizontal? You flip your canvas sideways if you want. That's totally up to you. Think about where you're going to put this later, where it's going to live in its final home. If you have a place that will accommodate landscape, well, then that's what we'll do, right? So it's your painting. I'm going to go vertical because the inspiration picture is vertical. And I do have to say the inspiration picture is not mine, but so mine isn't going to look exactly like that. But that means it's okay if yours doesn't look exactly like that. It's going to be your version of that. We're going to do what makes us happy today. Maybe you have a couple bees on there. Maybe you have bees to represent everyone in your family. Maybe you only do purple flowers. That's up to you. Okay. So our canvas, our inspiration picture, I'm going to set that down to the side. Brushes. Everyone got a lovely pack of brushes, and some of the packs are a little bit different, but they essentially have the same things in them. There's a big brush, a couple medium brushes, a small round brush. I should say the larger of the round brushes. I think this is the one I'm going to use the most, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to take all of these brushes and put them in my water cup. You should have a water cup. I like to use something heavy. I'm less likely to knock it over. So I have an old glass mason jar. You could use a coffee cup. Your water in your cup should be cool or cold, never warm or hot. Warm or hot water does something weird to the paint. And while I'm not using my brushes, especially since yours are new, take them, leave them in your water cup, leave them camp out there. That's a really good reminder that when you're done with the brush, it goes in the cup with everybody else. When we're done, we'll wash them all up. But you don't want a dry, crusty brush with paint on it laying around, rolling around. So I've got my brushes in my water cup. I have a couple paper towels underneath my water cup. I've got a couple of them there because when I dry off, the water might soak down through. And then paint. Let's talk about paint. So the paint that you got is in these little containers. Go ahead and pour out just little bits of each color. And I have mine out on my plate in the color wheel, essentially. I like that because then I know what I can mix next door. So I have white. You can't see it on the screen. There we go. White, a little bit of yellow, a little orange. My red got overzealous. I'm not going to need that much red, but there it is. Next to my red, I have blue. Oh, you don't have to. Anaya, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, right? I have green, and then I have black, okay? If you keep your paint, once you get it out on your plate, if you keep it sealed in these little containers, it'll keep for, I don't know, a month, as long as you keep the air out of it and seal it back closed. So Anaya just asked if we have to. No, you don't have to. But if I put my paint on my plate, then I can use this later for something else. Right? I can always pour out more if I need more, but in those containers sealed up, I can use it later. Okay. So I think now that we've run through our supply list, I think that's what we need, right? So before we get started, I'm going to vamp for a few more minutes because I see people still getting their supplies together and getting logged on. So I do want to say thank you so much to the Scott's Associate Board for sponsoring this event. They covered expenses for over 300 painters today, which is just spectacular. I do believe that we're going to set some kind of a record today. I don't know. I need to look that up. But this is my largest class by far. So this is super exciting. It's one of those silver lining in the pandemics. When this whole thing first started back in March, and I had to shut the studio down, I took everything virtual right away. And I think we're reaching people that I wouldn't normally reach, people that hadn't been to the studio, because we can do this from the comfort of our own home. You don't have to go anywhere. I provide supplies for classes if you need supplies. So this is kind of exciting. Again, the pandemic stinks, but this is a silver lining that I can reach so many people. They also, the Scott's Associate Board also wanted me to let you know that when we're done today, there will come a time that I will call the painting finished. Whatever time that is, maybe 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock. When I call the painting finished, I'll give you exactly 1 hour to send me a picture. I love to see your faces. To send me a selfie of you with your painting. Private message it to Crooked Door Studio on Facebook. But the Scott's Associate Board also wanted me to let you know that you can post them up on the Vine, and the Vine is located on the Scott's Miracle Grow Garden site. So I'll mention that again before we finish up today. So I say we go ahead and get started. I'm going to adjust here a little bit. So I like to remind everyone that art is very expressive. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very expressive. I know when I paint from my heart more than anything else. And it's really important to remember that your heart is involved when you do this. And if your heart's not in it, don't force it. Stop. Put your stuff away, clean up your mess, walk away from it. Don't try to force it if it's just not happening. And I say that because I don't want you to get frustrated, first of all, but you can reference this video later. I am recording it, and Crooked Door Studio, my studio, we have a YouTube channel. So I will post it up on, post this video up on YouTube later, so you can go back and reference it. So if something starts to go sideways, just stop, take a break, walk away from it, clean up your mess, come back to it later, because it shouldn't be frustrating. It really should be relaxing. Okay, let's get started, shall we? So our inspiration picture, I always like to take a peek at it, right? And let's kind of get the lay of the land for where we're going. I love that we have a big canvas. We can put so many flowers on there. We can just fill it with a riot of color. And again, remember, this is your painting. If you don't like yellow, don't use yellow. If you want all blue flowers, man, it is your painting. You do what makes you happy. Okay? So let's look. I'm going to put the back of the jar in first. I always have to put the back of the jar in so I know where my flowers want to live, because I know those stems need to be in the jar, right? So if I look at that jar, it's pretty big. It's about halfway up on the canvas, and it comes about halfway over. Okay, so let's start with the back of that jar. I'm going to, I have all my brushes in my water cup. I'm going to find that round brush that, it's a small round brush, but it's the biggest of the round brushes you have in your kit. And you see I'm tapping in the bottom of the cup. That's because the brushes you have are new. My brushes are old, but if they're new, when they come from the factory, they come with a, like a starch on them to keep the bristles stiff. It could be a 6. It's the biggest of your round brushes. Mine is a 5. Yours might be a 6. It's just one of your pointy brushes. So I'm tapping it in the cup, because if it's new, I want to get that starch off of it. Yeah, mine's a 5. My brushes are old, so I want to tap in the bottom of the cup, soften it up a little bit, because there could be leftover paint residue in it. Okay, so I have my my round brush. I'm not going to completely dry it out, but I want to wipe the excess water off on my paper towel. And now it's lovely and nice and pointy. And we're going to start with that jar. So right now, decide, yours could be a number 4. Yeah. Some of the brush kits are different, so everybody's is going to be a little different, but this is the one we're looking for. It's a round, pointy. Okay. And I love this painting because we can do fabulous things with all those different brushes. Every brush will give us a different flower petal shape. I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay, so my jar, it's an old mason jar, right? So it's that bluish green. And I have my blue and my green right here beside each other. And I'm going to load them up together. A little blue. You see I'm pulling through. A little green at the same time. Getting a lovely turquoise color that makes my heart happy. Okay. And you see how I'm loading that brush. I'm pulling it through. I'm giving a nice slow twirl, right? Keeping it to a point. And I only have brush about halfway up on those bristles. I don't want to overload it. Okay. And let's start with the back of the jar. So find about halfway on the right side of your canvas. And the top of my jar is going to come over about halfway. And I do apologize. I have to step in front to get my jar straight. So halfway up, almost halfway across, and I'm going to do the back of the jar, which is a really gentle frown. It's kind of a frown. It's kind of a sad jar. And then I can step back over here. Okay. And I'm just gonna thicken that up a little bit. Now, if you've painted with me before, this may be a surprise to you that we're not painting that canvas first. Our inspiration painting is from someone online called the Art Sherpa, and she did this on just a white canvas with gesso. So I thought, well, if that's what she did, let's give it a whirl, right? Okay. So there's the back of my jar, a nice brown. Loading up with a little more of that color. I can look at my jar for inspiration, right? My water cup. I need to come down about an inch or so. Come straight down. About an inch or so. That's where you would screw the lid on that jar. And then I have to give my jar a shoulder, which means I'm just going to bump it out. Maybe about the width of my pinky. I'm going to bump it out, give it a shoulder. And then from there, we're mixing the blue and the green together to get a turquoise. And then from there, I'm going to come, I would be tempted to say straight down. You can arch it out and make your jar kind of fat if you want. Up to you. But again, I have to step over in front here. Okay, so here, and take it all the way down. All the way down. And now I have my outline for my jar. So the question came up again, what colors are we mixing? I'm mixing, my red is running in because I'm holding my plate, but blue and green, blue and green. That's giving me that lovely turquoise color. I'm going to fatten up this line a little bit. Nice and solid. As I'm thinking about this painting, I was thinking, oh, I'm glad you're having fun. I love painting. As I was thinking about this, I was like, white background. I don't know how I feel about that. But since these supplies were provided to you, right? Go crazy, have fun. If this is something you enjoy, go buy another canvas. And maybe the next time you paint the backgrounds a color that makes you happy, right? Art. I love art. You can do so many things. You can make it your own. Okay. So there we go. There's my jar. So now I'm gonna let that dry because I don't want to run through any of it. That's all I'm gonna do for my jar right now. I had to have that on there so I know where my stems will live in a minute. But I'm gonna leave that set. I'm gonna take this brush, that same round brush, and rinse it out. So I'm gonna tap, tap, tap in the bottom of the cup. Tap, tap, tap. And I'm gonna dry it off. And I'm gonna put my bee body on there because we're gonna have to do the bee in a couple different stages so it can dry in between. Okay. So I'm gonna take that same brush with some black and sketch my bee. Let's just do the bee body first. I'm gonna do a furry little bumblebee. See how big that bee is. That bee is, let's get a measurement here. What do we think? Maybe an inch and a half? I guess it's up to you on how big you want your bee to be. So let's start. I'm gonna go out from the shoulder and I'm gonna put my bee in this area, okay? So I'm gonna start with his head. So I have black on my pointy brush and his head is just round. Mine's maybe the size of a quarter, maybe nickel, quarter nickel-ish. Talking about change, and it's not going to be long with the change shortage. People aren't even going to know what those coins are anymore, right? So there's my bee head. And my bee body is kind of the shape of a football. But I'm going to start in the middle of his head. I'm going to get nice and close. Let me loosen this up so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start in the middle of his head, right there in the middle. And I'm going to do kind of the shape of a football or an eye. And there we go. That's my bee body. Okay. Get a little more paint on my brush. And I want to make him furry. So I'm going to set my brush right on that black line, and I'm going to pull out, pull out, pull out, pull out. I'm doing little tiny brush strokes. Pull out, pull out, pull out and down. That's giving him a little furry body. Furry little bee body. Makes him a little less scary, I think, if he's furry, right? Makes him cute. Let's do that all the way around. Oh, he's gonna have little tiny hairs that stick up. Just little ones. So you see, I'm just setting it on that line and pulling out. So as I pull out, I get that furry little brush stroke. Let's do that all the way around and then fill him in. It's funny, as I fill him in, I'm still doing that little brush stroke, right? So let's take a minute and do that. Let's fill our bee in, completely in. So now we have this weird little furry thing on our canvas. He'll turn into a bee in a little bit, but again, I need to let him dry. Zerp. Little bee. Looks weird. He needs wings. Not gonna do that yet though. I'm gonna let him sit for a minute. Gonna let him just hang out there. So once you have your bee on there, let's go back to the water cup, rinse it out. Okay. So the next thing we want to do, we're going to leave that bee alone. Let's go back to our jar. So I'm just tap, tap, tapping in the bottom of the cup, rinsing that brush out. Let's put some stems in there for our flowers. Okay. So my stems, you know, it's really up to you. What color are your stems in your jar? Think about that. They could be green if you want. I think mine might be brown, but I don't have brown on my plate. So I'm going to take some orange. This is a lesson that I like to teach at the studio. So let's talk about that right now, shall we? As we start to think about what color flowers we're going to have, we're going to do a lot of color mixing. When we start mixing colors, you can really go crazy, but you have to be careful. If you do too much mixing, you'll get poop. And nobody wants poop flowers, right? So this is my lesson in poop color, because that's kind of the color I want for my stems. I want a brown color. I don't have brown here. The way I get brown is to mix colors that are opposite on the color wheel. Those are my complementary colors. So opposite from orange is blue. I love orange and blue on the same canvas together. I think that's why we love this painting, because we have the blue jar and the orange flowers. It's what we love about it. But if you mix those colors at the same time while they're wet, poop. Okay? I kind of want that for my stems because I want brown. So let's try it. I'm going to take some orange. You'll notice anytime I take a color, I always go in the edge, never the middle, right? I don't want to mess everything up, because if I pull out this side of orange and I want clean orange later, I can pull from the other side. So I'm going to take some orange, maybe up here in the middle, and maybe a tiny, tiny bit of blue. Oh, look at that. I'm getting a poo color. It's kind of a greeny browny color. Maybe a little more orange. There we go. Tiny bit of blue, little bit of orange. That gives me a lovely stem color. Not a super attractive color, but it's what I need for my stems. Okay, so I'm going to mix a little more. I'm going to take a little more orange over here to the middle, take a tiny bit of blue, and mix my stem color right here in the middle. Okay, there we go. And let's talk about how many stems are we going to put in there. We have to put stems so we know where flowers are going to live. So if I want flowers to live over here, I have to make sure a stem winds up over there, right? If I stop all of my stems right here, I have nothing for my flower petals to live upon. And I'm going to take my stems all the way to the bottom. So since I'm wanting to do a really long brush stroke, I'm going to water that paint down a little bit, a tiny, tiny bit. That will help it go further across my canvas. So I'm going to take that brush, dip it straight in my water cup and straight back out. And now I've got a drip of water on there. And I'm going to smush it around in there and thin it down just a little bit. That's going to help my, my paint go further across my canvas. Okay, let's see. I want a flower to live over here. Stay inside that corner of your jar. Don't let a stem run outside the edge of your jar. Start here. I'm going to go down all the way down to the bottom. Whew. Have to go back over that just a little. There you go. Stem. Stem done. Let's do that again. It's okay to have your stems crisscross down in here. And if we're counting, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 big flowers up there. So we have to have at least 5 stems. You can have 2, you can have 17. Up to you. The original, however, has 5. Okay, so I'm gonna thin this down just a little bit, little water, swish it around in there, get it to a point, and let's put another one. I think I'm gonna have another one that lives right there, I think. A little taller, I wanna make sure. Oh, I'm gonna go a lot taller, I think. You'll see as I get close to the bottom with my stem, I'm pressing a little bit, fattening that stem out a little. So there's 2. 5 is my goal. right? 2, let's see, where's 3? 3, where's 3 gonna go? 3, you see me mapping it out? I'm not even touching my canvas. I'm just kind of mapping it out in my brain. Where's that gonna go? I think right there. 3, I like it. Everybody remembering to stay inside the edge of their jar, right? Don't get outside your jar. I see this in class all the time. It makes me giggle every time. We have this conversation about staying inside the jar, and every time somebody will take a stem and go like burp right out the side. Do you like how I explain that? Verp happens. Verps happen. Okay, there's 3. I want to get 2 more on there. This one. Oh, he's going to be nice and tall. I need 1 more. And you see, I'm bringing my stems up pretty high, right? Because I'm only going to have color. I'm only going to have flower petals where those stems are. Now we can imagine and make things up and make a flower taller, but this helps us in the process. Helps my brain anyway. Let's see, 1 more. Let's see. Where do I want? You know what? I think I'm going to make this one a little longer. Because it's my painting, I can do that, right? Make that one a little longer. And then I'm going to put a shorter one right there. Comes down. Oh, I like that. Okay. So I'll give you a couple minutes to get those stems on there. In the meantime, I'm going to rinse that brush out. And we're going to talk leaves next. We're going to talk, we're going to put those leaves on there on our flower stems and give those a minute to dry. While those are drying, we'll head back over to our bee. Before we get into the colorful flowers, the biggest lesson I think you can take away today is if you have something that goes sideways, that you're like, ooh, that's not really what I wanted. The hardest thing to do, but the best thing to do, is to let it dry. And it's the hardest thing to do because if you have something that you think is a mistake and you have to just leave it there and let it dry, then you can cover it back over. You can put maybe some white on it if you want to camouflage it, and then go again. That's the hardest thing to do because you have to live in that mistake for a few minutes. But it's the best thing to do because if you try to cover it up right away and that paint's still wet, it's going to make a hot mess. It's the voice of experience talking. I know hot messes. I've made all the hot messes. So while we're on a little break, letting everybody get their stems on there again, I want to say thank you to the Scott's Associate Board. This is fantastic. This is a pretty good way for us to all hang out and learn something new, get to express ourselves a little bit. I can't wait to get up into those flower petals, get in all those colors. I have all these colors running through my brain because I'm going to start mixing and having fun when we get there. Not there yet, but when we get there. Okay. So let's go ahead and put some leaves on there. And then again, we're going to let them dry. So the leaves on here are green and yellow. You can use the same brush if you want. I might try that, and then I might get into a different brush. So I need you to ask, I'm not sure what that question means. Do I need to wash out the stem? Oh, yes, rinse your brush out. Sorry, could you tell I wasn't understanding? I'm like, yep, rinse your brush out really good. Get that brown out of there. So you see I'm tapping in the bottom of the cup. Tap, tap, tap. When I tap in the bottom of the cup, that helps knock that paint out. And then dry it off on your paper towel. So I'm going to use that same brush, but then I might move to a different brush. We'll see. So there are so many ways you can do leaves. It's really whatever makes you happy. I'm going to take some green and watch how I'm loading. No, don't apologize. That's okay. I'm going to load my brush with green this way. And then I'm going to flip it over. And on the other side, I'm going to take a swipe of yellow. Zoop. So now I have green on this side. And if I roll my brush over, yellow on that side. Green on that side. Yellow on that side. That's going to help me get like a two-tone leaf. And if we're really unsure, let's do a leaf in here that we could cover with a flower later if we don't like it, right? I'm all about making my life easier. So if I'm not sure how this is going to go, let's practice with one that we could potentially cover up later. So I have my two-tone brush. It doesn't matter how you put it on the canvas, but I'm going to put it down. You get close so you can see. I'm holding my brush up. Let's see. Let's get an angle where you can see. I'm going to set it right on that stem, and I'm going to push. And then I'm going to come up and let go. I'm going to push, come up and let go. So that's one way you can do a leaf. We can also do a leaf. Let me do one over here. I can start out and pull in. Oh, I like that one. I like the shape of that one. Let me show you that one again. Start out here and come into the stem. I like that leaf better. That one feels better to me. What if I move on to one of my medium brushes that's flat, but if I turn it, it's a little wider? What happens if I load that brush? I load it with green on this side, flip it over, yellow, whoop. And again, don't mix it. Make sure you've got one color on one side, the other color on the other side. I'm gonna put some leaves down here. I'm gonna use that brush skinny ways. You notice I'm not using it flat, I'm using it skinny. I start out here, really light, and then I push as I come down in, really light, and push as I come down in. Gives me a different looking kind of leaf. I feel like I need another one right there. What if, because I'm feeling crazy, what if I go to the biggest brush I have? What would that look like? I don't know. Let's find out. Green on one side, yellow on the other. Ooh, I like the feel of this already. right? Yellow, green, use it skinny ways. Let's put one over here. Skinny ways. Right here we go. I'm gonna set it down and then I'm gonna push and turn it in as I get to my stem. Ooh, I like that. I like the big brush. So skinny ways, I'm gonna go over these because I like that big brush. What if I set it and I pull up and out? Ooh, that was fun. Set it and pull up and out. Oh, I think I like that even better. Set it on the stem, pull up and out. The beauty of this is we're all going to be different. There is no right or wrong. Oh yeah, that's good. Like I need another one down here. So let's play in those leaves for a little bit. Try some different brushes, different techniques. This time pull into the stem, next time flare out. See what makes you happy. I'm going to do one right here. I'm going to set it on the stem. Ooh, that was a fun one. Set it on the stem. It's like a finesse kind of thing, right? Some flare. Another one right here. Oh yeah, I think I might even put some down just in the edge of the jar. I'm going to use my imagination. I don't want to get any all the way down in here because in reality, in real life, if you have leaves down in here and they're down in the water, they get yucky and gross pretty fast by sitting down in the water. So stay above your water line. Do you like how I just brought reality into our imaginary world? Sorry. Didn't mean to bring reality in. Like I want a couple down in here. Oh yeah, I'm so excited to see what you guys do with this. I can't wait to see your pictures later. So as a reminder, there will come a time that I will call this painting done. And at that point, I'll give you an hour to send your picture to me, to private message it to the studio, to Crooked Door Studio, private message it to me. And then I'll take all those pictures and collage them together and put them out on Crooked Door Studio Facebook and Instagram. If we were at the studio, we would all gather together for a group picture, but we can't do that since we're virtual. But that's something we can do, is send me all your pictures and then I'll push them out later. And then as a reminder, you can also post them on The Vine, located on Scott's Miracle Grow Garden site. You see me reading off my paper to make sure I got it right. You can post them on The Vine. So let's put a couple more I'm going to do a couple more leaves on here because if I get too many, I can cover them with flowers. But I love the idea of this section right around the top of that jar having leaves there. So let's do a couple more here. And this is the point, we're doing something new. I know a lot of you have never painted before. We're doing something new. Let it be whatever it's going to be, right? If you get frustrated, walk away. Don't let it get to you, right? We don't pick up things right away and we're not all perfect first go round. Sometimes it takes time. I've been painting since I was 10 years old and I just hit 46. So I've got a lot of paint time under my belt. And like I said early on, I've made all the mistakes. That's the only way I know how to do what I do now, is by making lots of mistakes. But if you enjoy painting, keep painting, right? I know it does something for my soul. It makes me feel good. So I'm going to take my brush. 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 I'm Pop it in my water cup. And I'm going to get ready and move back over to B. Let's do another level of B. Okay. Let's go to let's go to a pointy brush. I'm going to go back to that first one I was using because he worked pretty good for me. You might have a smaller one, but I want to do detail, so I'm going to my fine, one of my fine brushes right now. So let's put some wings on our bee. So I have my pointy brush. I'm going to let all that dry. Moving back over to this side of my canvas. I have my pointy brush. Let me get some black. I'm twirling it, loading it up, getting it to a nice point. And I want to put the outline of my bee wings on there. So I'm going to get nice and close. Let's start where the bee head meets the bee body. That's going to be that very first wing that's closest to us. So I'm going to start right there. And I love it because my bee is dry, so I can rest my hand. I like to rest my pinky. I'm trying to get an angle where you can see. Rest my pinky there. There we go. And I'm just going to arc up. And then I'm going to curve it. I'm going to kind of angle it down and to the left. And then come back in to that same spot. There's my first bee wing. Because of perspective, I want to do, so if this is the right wing, the one that's closest to us, I want to do the left wing. It's going to be on the other side of him. For perspective, he needs to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to start up here, bring him down into the same spot, and angle him down in. So now I have perspective on my wings. Right? This one's closer. This one's a little further away. And then I'm going to get a little more paint and give him one more wing down low. Just going to kind of come out here and angle it down and curve it back in. Here we go. We have bee wings. Shabam. And then I'm going to do more to these bee wings later after they dry. But I'm going to do some little number 7s. It's a sideways number 7, but it's a number 7. Little number 7 here. Maybe another little 7 here. Some little marks in those wings. Maybe a tiny little number 7 here. And I'm going to let them dry before I do anything else to them. And I'm feeling like while we have black on our brush, I'm feeling like we should probably put some antenna and some little leggies on there. So I'm going to, I feel like I need to thin that black paint down a little bit. Remember how we talked about thinning that brown paint down to help it go a little further across the canvas? I'm going to do the same thing to my black. I'm going to thin it down just a little bit. So with that pointy brush, I'm going to take a drip of water and come over here into the edge of that black and squish it around. I'm going to thin it down just a little bit. I don't want to use too much water because then it gets very see-through and very transparent. But a drop of water right there in the edge will help the paint flow easier across the canvas. This is really important. I've seen some of you are painting outside. I love painting outside, but depending on, paint will do different things depending on the humidity and the temperature, depending on what environment you're in. Your paint will do funny things. It'll behave differently. If I'm painting outside and it's a nice warm day, my paint will dry super fast, super, super fast. So I'm constantly dipping my brush in water and coming back and thinning my paint down a little bit if I'm outside. I'm doing that now because my paint right now has been sitting there for about an hour, starting to get a little sticky, a little stiff. Okay, so I've thinned it down a little bit. I've got that pointy brush. Let's put bee antenna on there. So this one, it's gonna go, oh, let me get down here in range where you can see. I'm gonna come straight down and angle it out. There's one. And then remember perspective, the one on the back side, it needs to be a little smaller. Out. Bee antenna. And then legs. And insect legs are weird, right? So he has 3 sets of legs. So I'm gonna do all of my legs on the body, not on the head, all my legs on the body. So we need 6 legs on there. So I'm gonna do my first leg here. Oh, he's kind of disconnected. They don't even touch. That's okay. All right with that. That's one leg though. And another leg back there. You can't really, it's a lot smaller. Okay, so that's the first set. The middle part of the body, I need another set. And the back end, I need a set. A little more paint. Do a leg here. It's funny, I have a fly on my painting up there. He's feeling left out. He feels like we need to paint him. And I need another set back here. Leg. Bee legs. And you know what? I think I need to give him a little pointy bee bottom. Right? Because he would have a little tiny stinger. Maybe. Up to you. You can decide whether or not your bee needs a stinger. But I feel like he does need a pointy little rump. Oh, pointy little bee rump. Okay, once we get to that point, gotta let him dry. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes to get your bee details on there. You know what? I'm gonna get this nice and close to the screen so you can see what I've done. If you need to take your phone and snap a picture, sometimes I'll do that. So you can see what I've done there. And we're gonna get ready to move into flowers while that bee's drying. He looks weird right now. He looks weird with no yellow, with no eye. He looks like a creepy little alien. And yet I kind of love him. I can see where he's going. I can see what he's gonna be. Okay. I am ready to get into flowers. Let's do this. So based on the brush that you use, that's what your petal will look like. So I'm gonna take a plate and show you up nice and close what we're gonna do here before I get onto my canvas. And you might wanna practice, right? Practice someplace else because it'll take you some time to figure out what your flower style is. So here we go. So I have a stem, right? You can imagine that that's one of my stems in my vase back there. I'm going to use, I think because my canvas is so big, I'm going to use one of my medium brushes. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to use one of my medium brushes, I think. You can use whatever brush makes you happy. I like, though, using my brush and using it skinny ways. There we go. That's the one I want. I'm going to load that up. What do I want to start with? I'm feeling pink today. I'm going to take a little swish of white, mix it there in my red. I'm going to get a lovely dark pink going. Okay, now watch what I'm going to do. Stay with me here for a second while we practice. So I have a lovely pink. I have my brush loaded up with paint. When I say use the brush skinny ways, what I mean is use it this way, not fat, not the way it was necessarily intended. You know, we see a brush that's fat like this and we want to use it that way. I'm going to turn and use it the skinny way. So I've got pink loaded up on there. And then just like I did my leaves, I'm going to do a little swipe of white. So I've got pink all over it, and I'm going to do a little swipe of white. So I have white on one side, pink the rest of the way around. I'm going to use that brush skinny ways. So I'm using it this way. I'm going to start right here at the top. I'm going to set that down and pull into my stem and let go. Set it down and pull in, pull in, pull in. Straight up and down, pull in, straight up and down, pull in, in. I'm pushing and pulling in and letting go. I'm pushing, push that brush, smash those bristles out, pull in and let go. And because I want to hide the stem, I got to do a straight one in the middle. Push, pull in and let go. Now, as we get further down, we want them to get bigger. So I'm going to push, pull in, push, pull in. How fun is that? Now, I've seen some people they instinctively, they want to set on the stem and pull out and away. That's up to you if that's the look you're going for. Makes your flower look fanned out. Not necessarily the look I'm going for. I love using my brush and helping it make the ends of my petals. I can do the same thing with that small round brush we've been using. Too many brushes in there. I can do the same thing with that brush, load it up with a color, swipe it through the white. Look at how much paint I have on there. It's like globbing off my brush. Push, flatten those bristles out, pull in, push, pull in, push, flattening it out, pull in and let up. Okay. Now, as we do that, don't be afraid to go, I just grabbed some orange right on that brush. What if I go back up in here and I get some orange, a couple orange petals up in there? Wouldn't be afraid of that. The paint that we're using is very transparent. So if I want to go back up in there and get a little pop of yellow, I have to add a little bit of white to it. So I'm going to get some, and I'm not rinsing my brush out. It's a hot mess. I'm going to get some yellow in my brush and take a little swipe of white. to make that yellow pop. Oh, that's fun. I get some yellow up in here. So do you remember earlier when we were talking about our stem color and we were aiming for a nice brown and we mixed complementary colors? We mixed blue and orange to get brown. You can do whatever color flowers make you happy, but if you jump across the color wheel, you're going to get poop. If you jump across the color wheel while those colors are wet. So I love the idea. I love blue and orange, purple and yellow, red and green. We love all of those. We don't want to mix them at the same time. We want them to dry. So I love what I have going on here. And I think it would be stunning to have a blue flower. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to let that red dry in there, that red and orange, so I don't get them blended together and come up with a poop color, okay? I've said poop far too many times today. Sorry. Apologies. Okay, because my canvas, I have a nice practice. I'm feeling pretty good. Because my canvas is so big, I think I'm gonna go to my big brush. And I'm gonna use that brush skinny ways. I'm gonna use it skinny. And when I press it, I'm gonna fan out those bristles and pull in and let up. Okay, here we go. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. Let's start out at the end. I'm loving that, that red pink. You know what? Maybe even a little orange. Load my brush up. And a little swipe through the white. So I have a ton happening on there. But I'm not afraid. We're fearless. I'm going to do the taller ones first. So I'm going to start right up here. I'm using that brush skinny, not fat. I'm using it skinny. You know what? You can use it fat if you want. It'll give you a different shaped petal. Right? And I'm going to press and pull in and let go. Press, pull in, straight, pull in, push and pull in, straight up and down, pull in, straight up and down, pull in. Oh my goodness. This is exciting. I like where this is headed. And you see, because we let those leaves dry, it was a good thing we left them dry. I can see my leaf through, but I'm not blending into it. Because I have red on my brush, wet green, opposites on the color wheel, poop. So make sure your leaves are dry, okay? That makes me happy. I think I'm not even rinsing my brush out. I'm gonna go to yellow. Ooh, fearless. Yellow. We'll swipe a white. Don't blend that white. What if I get, some yellows in there? Just randomly. Oh, that's fun. I need a couple more petals down here. There is so much paint on my brush that when this is dry, you'll be able to see the texture. You'll be able to feel, I should say. You'll be able to feel that texture. So I think what I'm going to do a couple more of those. I'm doing my tallest ones first. And then these short ones, those might be my blue ones. I'm not sure. We'll see. But let's take, I don't know, 10 or so minutes. How about 3:15? It's 3:05 right now. So at 3:15, that'll give you time to experiment and get some fun flowers up in there. And at 3:15, I think, we'll come back in and we'll work on our bee. And we'll put the front of our jar on. Sounds like a plan. Okay. All right. I have so much. I didn't rinse my brush out through that whole flower, but there is so much happening in there right now. I'm gonna rinse it out and start fresh. I'm gonna tap, tap, tap it in the bottom of the cup. And I'm gonna head out here next. All right. So as we paint our flowers, as we paint those flower petals on there, I have heard some people say, hey, it's not good to leave your brushes like this all the time. You are correct. It's not. It's not good to leave them like this all the time. As soon as we're done painting, I'm going to take my brushes and rinse them out. And the way I'm going to do that, under warm water in my sink, I'm going to wipe all the paint off of my paper towel that I can get it. I will, Lily. I absolutely will. I'll demonstrate the flowers again here in a minute. I'm going to wipe all the paint off of my brush when I'm ready to clean them. Under warm water, warm running water, I'm going to do this and let the water hit my hand, hit that brush until it runs clear. Right? That way I know it's nice and clean. And then I'm going to shape my brush back into the shape it needs to be and lay it flat to dry. I know a lot of artists like to store their brushes up in a cup. You can do that once it's dry, but you need to leave it lay flat to dry. Okay, a little brush care 101 for you. All right, let's get back in there. I think this time I'm going to go red. I don't think I'm going to mix any pink. Okay, so I'm loading that brush up. I'm using a big brush because I want big, bold, beautiful flowers. So I'm loading it up with some red. And then I'm going to swipe through the white. Zoop. Don't blend it. Leave it hang out there on the end. And I'm going to use my brush Skinny Ways. Okay, here we go. At the very end, with my brush Skinny Ways, I'm going out to the end of my stem. I'm going to push and pull in and let go. Then I'm creating V's, but I have to do one in the middle to hide the stem. Let me show you. So I'm going to push and pull in and let go by the time I get to the stem. Push, pull in and let go. Push, pull in and let go. And then I have to hide the stem straight up and down. Push, pull down, push, pull down. Oh, I've got a lot of paint on the other side. Let's flip that brush. Push, pull in and let go. Push, pull in and let go. Oh, let's get one straight up and down. Push, pull in, push, pull in. There we go. And then I love how I have this variation of color up in here. There's a little white, a little yellow. I kind of lost it down here. Everything started to mix together on my brush. So I can go back and go over those petals. So I'm going to go back with just a little bit of white. I just added a little bit of white to that messy brush. And what if we go over, maybe not all the petals, but some of them. What about this one? Maybe one right here in the middle. Maybe this one. Maybe this guy. This one right here. If you were painting with me on a Saturday night, this would be my reminder to you to breathe. Right? Don't hold your breath. Anytime we do something new, we have a tendency to hold our breath and focus really hard. Exhale, let it all out. It's all good. It's going to be whatever it's going to be. We're going to learn. We're doing different things today. I'm going to go over to this one next. Let's see. I'm going to do some red, some orange. Little swoop of white. And I'm going to get close and do this one more time over here. So skinny ways on my brush. I'm going to push and pull in and let go. See how I'm letting up as I pull in? Push the bristles, pull in and let go. Push, pull in and let go. Letting that brush make the shape of my flowers, my flower petals. Okay. Getting bigger as we head down to the bottom. Here we go. Oh, fun, fun. I'm gonna let those dry for a minute. I feel like I might get purple. I kept saying blue, but now I'm like, ooh, purple. I don't have purple in my palette though. We can mix red and blue to get purple. Did you do purple, Anaya? I can't wait to see your picture when we're done. Yep, we can use red and blue to get purple. I have to use caution though, because I've been playing in the orange that's next to my red. So I'm going to use red over here that doesn't have any orange in it, because again, what do we get if we mix blue and orange? Poop. So I'm going to make sure to use red that doesn't have any orange near it, or it'll turn my purple a real funky color. Okay, let's see. I want to, yep, I think these are going to be purple. So, you know what? Before I rinse this brush out, do you know you don't have to do all of your petals that stick to the stems? What if we do just a couple petals just outside, out in no man's land? I was looking at this and there's a little trail of petals that kind of come down around the bee. I like that. So let's see. I already have that red color on my brush that I love. So what if, I like it that there's those petals that kind of arc around the bee, like petals that are kind of flowing with the bee. So I'm gonna do a petal there and there, there, there. Oh, that's fun. Oh, I like that. Oh, maybe a couple up here. They're not even connected to anything, right? But I'm pulling them toward the jar as I put them on there. So you see these, they pull down toward the jar. I feel like I want a couple up here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's fun. Do I need a couple down here, or is that too many? I might wait, that might be too many, because I might actually do a little dotted line where my bee is flying. So I'm gonna stop. But I do still have 2 stems. Oh, it's 3:15 and I'm still working on flowers. Let's go another 5 minutes. I was like 3:15, we'll move on. No, another 5 minutes. I want to make sure all my stems have flowers on them. So if you are done with your petals and you're ready to move on, this is a good time. You've got 5 minutes. Get up, take a break, stretch your legs. I know some people like to rinse their water cups out often. This would be a good time to do that because there's a whole hot mess happening in here. And I'm going to take another 4 or 5 minutes and put flowers on the rest of my stems. I still have two naked stems. And I want purple. So red and blue. Making sure my red doesn't have any orange near it, because that's the recipe for disaster. Not disaster, just not an attractive color. And a little swish of clean white. And okay, here we go. 1, Here. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, that's pretty. And I love that I overlapped a little. I have a little dimension now. We get another one right here. Should he be yellow? I think he should be yellow. And I say yellow because I have purple. Opposite on the color wheel from purple is yellow. So we love those complementary colors. We love those opposite colors. We just have to be careful not to blend them while they're wet. That's how you get a mess. Okay. So yellow, I need some clean yellow. And again, yellow is very transparent. All my colors are very transparent. So I'm gonna have to add white, which I was gonna do anyway, to get that, that two-tone. Like that. Yellow there, and a swish of clean white. Swish. Skinny ways on my brush. There we go. Oops. I might make him a little taller. Yep, a little bit. Might need to add some more white to my yellow because you can see my green stems through. If I add a little more white to it, it'll camouflage those green stems. There we go. Yes. And you know what? Since I have that yellow on there, I think I want to do, I love these float away petals that don't really connect to anything. Do a couple more of those. Nope. I need to stop. I'm gonna cover it with petals. Okay, where are the happy little trees? You can't say that. That's a trademark. Lesson learned. You can't say happy little trees. Okay, let's see. Buds on my flowers. My bee is so furry. It looks like a lion. I love it. Yes, I'm just reading your comments. Our jar. No, we're going to add more to the jar. And I think let's go back to our bee. Let's give this time to dry. Let's go to the bee and put the finishing touches on him. So I'm going to go back to that round pointy brush. And let's add finishing touches on our bee, and then we'll finish our jar. Okay, so I'm going to go to some yellow and a tiny bit of white. Oh, I happen to have yellow and white because I was just playing in it. Yellow and a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of white. Again, because the yellow is too transparent by itself. So I have to add a teeny bit of white to it. And do you remember that little furry brush stroke we used on the bee? We're going to do more of that. So let's go. Let's do some furry on the back of his head. So I'm going to pull, pull, pull. Just little pulls right there on the back of his head. I almost feel like I want a little orange in there. Is that weird? I don't know. Let's find out. I could do this and it'll be a disaster, but I don't know. It's not a disaster. Just means I'll change it. There we go. Ooh, maybe a little bit, a little on his face. No, too much orange or yellow. I like a tiny bit of orange in there, but mostly yellow and white. Little round hair on his face. Okay. So I've just wrapped around from his antenna all the way around, halfway up the front of his face. And then I want to put some on his back. I'm going to leave a little bit of black there. It's going to look like he's going to have a little black stripe right there on his back. And let's do some little choo-choo-choo brush strokes right here. Little furry brush strokes. Furry, furry, furry. If you can see too much of your black through, add a little bit of white to your yellow. Remember that yellow is very transparent. Now with that little bit of yellow and white on there, I'm going to come up into the wings. I'm not going to fill them in completely, but I want to get a little bit of yellow, a little bit in there. Not using much paint at all. I'm kind of dry brushing it. But just some little yellow strokes up there. A little back here too. You see I left some of my white show through. Okay. There's a little bee. I'm going to rinse that brush out. I'm going to put some white detail on my bee and call him done. Okay, so clean that brush out. I'm going to find some clean white. Just a little bit. And his eye, I want to put his eye on there. His eye is kind of a horseshoe shape. I didn't close it in the front. It's like a horseshoe. The front of it's open. And then I'm going to do a little dot there and another little tiny little dot for a little glint of light right there in his eye. Hey, buddy. And then with that white on my brush, I want to do some little highlights. I have just a little bit of white on that pointy brush. I'll do some little highlights there in my bee's fur. Just little bits of white. Little bits of white right there. Maybe that black is very intense. So maybe a little bit of white right there in his fur. I'm just kind of messing him up a little bit. All right. There's no better way to say it other than messing him up a little bit. Messing that fur up a little. Okay. Just getting some little white highlights on that fur. A little more white. And I might play up here in the wings, just a little. Just a little highlight right there. A little right there along the top edge of those wings. Just outlining the top edge. There we go. And I'm going to call my bee done. Wait, I'm going to do one more thing. It's not in the original, but I kind of want to do it. I'm going to take my pointy brush. I'm cleaning it out. I love that. A beautiful oops. I'm going to take a tiny bit of black and a little bit of white. I'm just making a light gray. This is optional. This is not on the original painting. But I feel like, see how I flipped there are things I do that I don't even realize I'm doing. I flipped my brush over so I could use the other end of it. So I don't have to worry about getting paint on my canvas till I'm ready. And I think I'm going to do a little dash line here, I think. That is so light, and I know it's hard for you to see, so let me get close. My little dotted line where my bee was flying. Totally optional, but it makes me smile. Okay. One more thing. I'm going to go back to my big brush. I'm going to put some petals down here, down on the ground. that look like they've fallen down on the table. And then we're gonna finish that jar. I feel like I need a little blob of color down here. There we go. Okay. Now let's finish that jar up, shall we? So we put the jar on so we know where the flowers needed to live. And now I'm going to put the front side of that jar on. So let's go back to that original brush, that pointy, that round pointy brush. There it is. Clean it out, dry it off. And let's go back to that blue-green color that we started with. And do you remember how we started with a frown? Now we're going to start back at that same spot and we're going to do a smile. Okay, a little blue, a little green, our colors from the very beginning. Start back at this very beginning. And again, I have to get in front because I'm real funny. If I paint from the one side, I go downhill. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to do a smile that comes back and meets over here at this edge. Okay. Now, and then blue and green, more blue and green. Let's mimic this line down here at my shoulder. So I'm going to do that exact line again. Here we go. Okay. Gonna fatten those up a little bit. They're in front, so I want to make them a little thicker, a little heavier. I might even take a little blue and a little green because I have old mason jars, right? Where, well, not super old, but older mason jars where the lid screws on. So I'm going to start here. This isn't on the original, but I like this. I'm going to go start here and go about 2/3 of the way across. Kind of looks like I have that spot where you screw your lid on your jar now. Okay, with that same color, with that same blue-green, let's add a little bit of white to it. Let's lighten it up a little bit. And do you remember how I said we took a little bit of white and made our bee messy? Let's make our jar a little messy. So I've added a little bit of white to that blue-green. And I'm going to go back over that line in front, down the side of my jar, there across. Just kind of going over this line. I've lightened my color up a little bit. And you can see as I do this, there is nothing precise about this. It really is messy. Let me get close. Blue, green, I've added white. Come down the edge of the jar. Look, I got outside my line a little bit. I'm kind of starting to dry brush it a little. Around. By doing this, as you come closer to the center of the jar, you're kind of dry brushing it. So I'm going up and down. I don't have much paint on my brush. That's what helps it look like glass. Oh, your turquoise dry. Just mix again. Mix your blue and green again if your turquoise dried out. You need to get a little more out of your containers, but we just need the tiniest bit. So I'm mixing blue and green and adding white to it. And then you can get super, super kinds of crazy if you want. Get another line across here. That's what helps it look like a glass jar. I know the original, she has some weird brush strokes happening. Right, some across there. Going back and forth. She has like a little bit of squiggles happening here. as I go, every time I load my brush, I take a little more white. Then I can get this lovely pop of white across there. But being sure to stay very dry brushy there in front of your jar. Something else that I've noticed, if you're still playing in your flowers. So I'm sorry, back to the jar. The jar is very, very dry brushy here in front. Harder lines along the edges. Something that she has done in the original, she has little dots up there in her flowers. You could do that if you wanted. Take your small brush and take the other end of it and dip it in a color. And for example, up here in the yellow, she has some little dots just right there around the top. And it looks like pollen. I don't know how I feel about that. That's up to you. Whatever makes you happy in your world for your flowers. But I do believe, I think I'm going to cover that over because I just don't care for it. But it's your painting, right? Whatever makes you happy. And I think at this point, I'm probably going to call it done. So let's talk about signing your painting. You can, and I say done, but I'm going to stay on here. I'm going to stay on here for a little bit and I'll continue to answer questions in the chat box. So if you have questions, pop them in the chat box. But before we lose anybody, don't forget to send your picture to me. I'm going to stand here as soon as we're done and I'm going to snap a little selfie of me with my painting. Then private message that to Crooked Door Studio on Facebook. I will collect all of those. How about, it's 3:30. I know some of us will still paint till 4. How about by 5 o'clock, all the pictures that I have sent to me by 5 p.m., I'll collage those together, put them in a video, in a little group video, so you can see everybody's painting, and I'll put it out on Crooked Door Studio Facebook. So you have until 5 o'clock. You're welcome. You're so welcome, Paxton. One more time, I really want to thank the Scott's Associate Board for putting this all together. If we were all together, we would give them a wonderful round of applause for all the work they did to put this together. So thank you guys so much. We so appreciate it. And you can post your picture to the Vine as well, Scott's Miracle Grow Garden site. You could post it on the Vine. You're so welcome. If you enjoy painting, please keep painting. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, ask me questions. Yeah, people are saying share your pics, everyone. Yes, please. You can put them up if you have your camera on. You can put them up and show people right now on Zoom, because I'm going to leave the Zoom up for a little bit. Let's talk about one more thing. The very last thing every artist does is signs their painting. A lot of artists don't want to see their signatures on the front. That's okay. It's okay if you don't want to see your signature on the front. You can sign on the back. If you sign on the back, you can sign with paint or with a Sharpie. Never here. Never, ever, ever sign here. It could bleed through and you'll see it on the front. So if you're going to sign on the back, always sign here where it's on the wood. Stretched canvases are lovely because you can sign here on the side with a paint pen or a Sharpie marker. But I'm going to go ahead and sign on the original painting. She signed here in turquoise. I think I might do that. I kind of like that. I like the way it looks. So I'm going to take my brush, my pointy brush I've been using, flip that, and you get to decide now what your artist signature is. Can be whatever you want it to be. Mine is SS blah, 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 for my last name, and then a little dot and a 20 because I like to know the year that I did it. So here we go, right along the edge of the jar. Little S. Thinning that paint down a little bit just so it flows a little easier. And a little zip. And a little tick, 20, 2, 0. There we go, done. All right, finished. So again, as we clean up, go wash all your brushes out. Like I said, put your brush in your hand, rub it under the running water till it comes clean. Shape your brush, leave it lay flat on a towel, paper towels to dry. This paint, I know a lot of people want to try to save this. It's really no good because it's already started to dry and congeal. Pop in the trash or continue to paint and use it. Your little cups of paint, if you make sure they're snapped closed nice and tight, you can use this for about another month, right? It'll stay as long as you keep the air out of it. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming and playing today. Don't forget to send me your paintings, private message Crooked Door Studio on Facebook. And thank you so much for coming to play. I'm going to leave the Zoom up, but I'm going to stop the recording right now. The recording will be available on Crooked Door Studio's YouTube channel. If you Google, oh my God, need a glitter fix. Oh my God, if we were in the studio. So for those of you that know, you know. But for those of you that don't know, you're welcome. For those of you that don't know, in the studio, we have a glitter table. And it's magnificent. It's a magical space. There's a trough that's about 2 foot wide by 3 foot deep. That's that deep of glitter. You just rub your hands through it. It's magical. And I know there are some of you right now that are like, oh, glitter. But there are a lot of us that are like, oh, glitter. So when the studio gets back open, we will all have a glitter party there. And you're so welcome, Sumit. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording now because of course I got that all on the YouTube recording. So let me go ahead and stop this. Give me just a moment.